have you ever been shoulded on? Like, you should do this, or have you ever thought about that? Unsolicited advice comes at us all the time. Hi, my name is Teresa Byrne, and I'm the founder of the Empower system of personal power. I'm a self-defense instructor and a martial arts master instructor, and I'm on the planet to teach people physical and emotional boundaries in relationships.
And I am Sandy Weiner. I am the dating and love coach for single women over 40 and the host of Last First Date Radio, which is an acclaimed show about attracting and sustaining healthy relationships in midlife. Teresa and I are also the co-creators of the Boundaries for Beautiful Relationships program that's coming back in March. So keep your eyes out for our upcoming course. In today's video, we are going to be addressing unsolicited advice. This is a really common boundary violation, and the next time you're faced with a well-meaning meddler, we want you to be able to deal with it with grace.
Oh, Sandy, I used to get this all the time. So one of the things that I've done is I owned a large business, a service business that was open to the public, a martial arts and fitness center, and I was always accessible. So people would come up to me and say, you know what you ought to do? Or have you ever thought about, and it might be in the middle of, I'm just running to the bathroom, or they'll stand at the front desk and they've had this brilliant idea and they want to share their idea with me, even though I never asked. So to keep myself from getting defensive, I created scripts, and they would allow me to be polite because I knew that these people were really just coming from a place where they had a desire to help. They wanted to see me succeed, and they just wanted to share their ideas. And to be honest, I've actually given unsolicited coaching to others as well. In fact, I did it with Sandy, and Sandy was so gracious about it. I addressed the fact that I think I just coached you and you didn't ask for it. And she was so graceful about about handling it, even though it had definitely been like, blah, let me tell you everything I'm thinking for you. And my issue is also sometimes my intuition will give me guidance, and I need to decide, is that something that I need to share with someone, or is that something they need to actually ask for? So most of the times I'll say, hey, I've got a hit. Would you like it? And then leave the ball up in their court.
Yep. As a coach, I have to keep my mouth closed a lot of the time because I'm always thinking of solutions. And I know when I run my big Facebook group, I'm constantly thinking, oh, I'm going to give them advice. I'm going to give them advice. But I hold myself back a lot because I know what it feels like to give and receive unsolicited advice. So what is unsolicited advice? Very simply put, it is advice that we didn't ask for. When somebody starts a sentence with, here's what you should do, like Teresa just talked about, that's unsolicited advice. And when people give us advice that we didn't ask for, it can make us really mad. Why does it make us upset? Because we feel imposed upon. We feel disconnected. We feel distrusted and unvalued because somebody's telling us what to do without checking up on us like they know better.
Yeah, that's the point of it, right? It's like somebody offering you a gift that you didn't ask for in the first place, you don't want, and they're like, here, I got you these muddy shoes. Okay? I don't want them. Get your muddy shoes out of running around in my head all day. So what is solicited advice? Well, very simply, it is advice that you ask for. It is something that you want. It's when you go to a friend, hey, I'm really struggling with this. What would you do about that? It's all about what you are receptive to and what you want. And you usually ask it of someone that you trust or that you like or respect. And it means that you're open to it. It's also when someone has really listened to you and they've checked in with you before they start saying, hey, you know what you ought to do. And it's about respect. So if you're sharing something with a friend or sharing something with a fellow coach or a colleague, and they check in, they'll say something like, would you like to hear my feedback? And that's always a big sign of respect. Now, why do people give unsolicited advice? Because they really want to help. I believe most people are well-meaning, but in my my idea is that they're kind of well-meaning meddlers. They're kind of meddling in your, like, giving you to-do list items. And who needs more of those? But they want to be a contribution. They want to contribute to your life. Most people who give unsolicited advice don't have any idea that them sharing their advice, their wisdom, their thoughts, their experience can be really annoying. It's off-putting, and it's alienating. And the last thing that they mean to do is to sound judgy, but unsolicited advice, it feels really judgy coming at you.
Yeah, yuck. It's one of my biggest triggers, actually. And I'm going to give you some examples of some unsolicited advice. One of the most common places we see unsolicited advice is places where we feel safety and familiarity, like in our families, where unsolicited advice happens all the time. Parents tell their teenagers what they should do instead of checking in with them first, and teenagers don't respond very well to that. Or kids will tell parents what to do, and that can feel very disrespectful to the parents. So it's like the kids think that they have free reign to tell us what to do. The nerve. This is something that I really worked hard on in my own family with my kids. And often my kids will call and they just want to vent. And my first instinct is to give advice. And I have to really check in with them and ask them if they want to vent or if they're looking for advice. And Teresa's going to give some examples of that later on. And I'm going to talk about my private Facebook group, which is called Your Last First Date. And we have over 2,000 active members, which is huge. And that's why I have very strict guidelines to help keep everybody safe and sane and set boundaries within the group. And one of my guidelines is in regards to how to post. And when somebody's posting, they can post on the top of their post, witness, which means I'm sharing to be witnessed and I'm not seeking input other than support. This is where you don't want unsolicited advice and you're clear about it. The next way to post is advice. And you put that on the top of your post. And it means I'm seeking advice from anybody who's had a similar situation or experience and they're willing to share what worked for them. I also ask that members that they support and don't advise when they're supporting. So when you're responding to another person's post, I don't want them to coach them or give unsolicited advice or write things like, are you kidding me? Or, oh my God, you're wrong.
Oh.
Because that's really violating boundaries, which is what we're trying to prevent here. So it's not helpful. And I actually delete those posts, and I've taken group members out of the group if they're not respectful to each other. So when they do abide by these guidelines, there is respect. And more importantly, what they learn in my group, they learn how to do in the rest of their lives. And I tell them this all the time because when women are dating, they often have the urge to coach and fix men. And that is really not cool. That's a surefire way to end a relationship quickly.
Yeah, I guess, is it ever cool to try to fix anyone, Sandy?
Probably not.
So other examples, for example, if you've ever seen pregnant women or if you've ever been pregnant, people love to tell you about their pregnancies, or they love to coach you on what you need to do, what you can't do. Or if you've ever seen someone who's pregnant or you ask them, well, what's the name of the baby? Well, we were thinking about naming it Jehoshaphat. And boy, do people have opinions and comments and thoughts about that. That kid's going to get teased, whatever. And it's just one of those places that continually invites in unsolicited advice. Another one is medical issues. Hey, I just got diagnosed with this, or hey, I think I have a cold or the flu. And the next word out of your friend's mouth, because they care, try this, try this. Have you tried this? Make sure you do this. So common. Business owners. One of my great friends owns a wine shop. And she and I get on the phone and laugh about, yeah, so this person said to me, you know what you ought to do, because it happens all the time. The thing is, men especially love to give advice. They love to fix things. They love to be solution oriented, and they love to help us. And they oftentimes think that they're being helpful by giving us advice. The only difference is we didn't ask for their help. And it can also happen with well-meaning friends. And as Sandy said earlier, when you've got that trust built. So the last thing I ever wanted to do was alienate people who were trying to be helpful for me or to me. So my scripts were really important because it allowed me not to get triggered, and they could feel heard, and then I didn't have to feel defensive and get upset because someone was telling me what to do, and they don't know my situation. But I couldn't always tell them up front, like they would say, you know what you ought to do? You ought to start advertising in the yellow pages. I did not have the time or the mental capacity to go into a conversation about why I didn't want to advertise my studio in the yellow pages. And I also want to clarify one last point, is that in teaching self-defense, there is a red flag that I call manipulation. And it is when someone starts offering helpful suggestions that you didn't ask for. And it can be a really important thing to notice, because sometimes a helpful suggestion can come from someone who's they feel or they think that they are up here and they're looking at you down here thinking you need to do this thing that I'm telling you. And that can be kind of manipulative. Now, with my friends, just like with Sandy, we have agreements on unsolicited coaching or feedback, especially if you've got friends who are in the healing business, in the coaching business, or who also offer advice. And what happens oftentimes is that a friend will start offering you information, advice, and you'll start feeling it. And you just feel kind of icky. And for me, I've had this happen several times, and I'll just kind of start to feel shut down or defensive. And I don't want to back at the person, but usually I'll try to say something like, whoa, you know what? Now is not a great time. It's a good script for me. I know you're trying to be helpful, but I need to go do these other things, and then set a boundary. And then when I'm wanting, as Sandy said earlier, she really wants to coach someone. It's hard not to sometimes when you've got people venting to you and you just want to give them solutions. I will always say, is this a vent? Or are you looking for coaching and feedback? How can I best support you?
Those are great scripts. And I think if more people did that, we'd have so much better relationships. So we are going to now share with you some more scripts for either being the recipient of unsolicited advice or being the one who gives unsolicited advice. And it's important to know when both of these things are happening. And we call these scripts shut the front door.
Shut the front door.
Shut the front door. So we just had a good time making this up. So if you're receiving unsolicited advice, if you're the lucky recipient of this beautiful gift,
tell them what they've won.
You've won a reason to take a deep breath. So pretty much every one of our scripts starts with a breathing, because we tend to get shut down when we are not happy with something, when somebody's violated a boundary. So you take that breath and just notice what's going on inside you. Notice if you're feeling shut down. And we have some questions for you to ask yourself. And we're going to give you more questions in the free download. We don't want to go into all the details here, because you can just download the free scripts when you're done watching this video. But one of our favorite questions to ask yourself is, was I just venting and wanting them to listen and not looking for advice yet? Because like Teresa just said, sometimes your friends are just venting. Sometimes we're just venting. So ask yourself, was I just venting? And I wanted my friend to listen, and I wasn't looking for advice just yet. So if that's the case, then maybe you want to ask yourself, how can I be more clear next time so I can let them know? Hey, I just need to vent about something. Would you be willing to listen? I'm not looking for feedback at this time. Does that work for you? So what we're doing is we're checking in, we're telling people what we're looking for, and we're asking them if they're on board.
Love that. So the next part of shut the front door, I love saying that, is that if you're giving unsolicited advice, you might be really excited about your idea. You might think you have got the best source of inspiration and you just want to share it with someone because they're struggling. But I need to tell you, all of us need a safe place to vent. We have to have that. We might not be looking for solutions yet. We might not be looking for a way out. We just need that safe space to vent. So if you are in a conversation with someone and you're really excited about your idea, but they seem not to be quite as receptive, and you notice that they're kind of shut down or turning their body away, you're going to address that. First thing is to take a breath and let yourself take a step back also. And so you've already noticed that the other person is looking kind of shut down, or maybe making faces or making noises. And so the important part about this script is to acknowledge it. And one of my favorite things to say is like, oh man, did I just should all over you? Oh, apologize for that. I'm sorry for that. It sounds like you just want to vent. And then you've acknowledged it, you've taken out the awkwardness, and you can allow them to have their sacred space.
I love that. I love your sense of humor, Teresa. And I think if we just inject more humor into all this, it makes it so much better and easier to take, because we all make mistakes. And if we can be self-compassionate when we screw up, it makes everything better.
Yeah,
So,
and we talk about hard and soft boundaries in our course, which we'll talk about later. And Sandy's got some great examples of that. And I think what you were saying was exactly that. We can do it with grace, and we can do it with laughter.
yes, shut the front door. So out of respect for your time, we are keeping our videos shorter, and we have so much great information to share with you. And we could go on for hours. As you can see, we are so passionate about boundaries, and there's tons more information in the free downloads, and in the course, it will be really comprehensive. So anybody who's taken the course before was like, oh my God, I was blown away by how much you shared. And so don't forget to grab your free download today. And if you found value in today's video, and I hope you did, please share it with your friends, share it on social media, share it by email. And we look forward to seeing you next week.